faithful. You've stuck it out. You know, I've made a lot of presentations.
Oh, you need the mic.
And because, do I need a microphone?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm going to use the one down here. Since I'm last on what they call degree in electrical engineering, I knew how to do that.
You're the anchor light.
No, I'm what they call the accordion speaker. If everybody runs over, I make it short, and if everybody finishes earlier, I make it long, so we finish on time. You know, we're running over, and I will be brief. But I'm kind of the spoiler here. I'm not an academic, although I aspire to be. I recently finished a master's degree, another one. You know, I enjoy that stuff. But I'm self-employed, and I'm sorry, but when you're self-employed, you can't suffer fools gladly and survive. And so my job here is to be blunt and kind at the same time. Now, you can see that the top of my remarks is, we're the philosophers, we're the systems engineers. And I chose that. I can do it.
Don't know. I got you standing. Okay. Yeah.
There we go. That'll do. You know, I get a lot of science newsletters, you know, phys.org.com, that sort of thing, and I have a folder on my computer that I call Bad Science. There's certain ideas that the human condition just seems to generate over and over. And you see these articles, they show up in Popular Science, they show up in Scientific American, places like that, and they just replay periodically. Power from the Sky. There's a recent issue of IEEE Spectrum, you know, sometime in the last year, and it shows these beautiful pictures of energy gathering satellite up there orbiting the Earth, geosynchronous, and it's beaming microwaves down, and it shows this beautiful picture of this tightly focused microwave beams with edges that, you know, probably about that wide, and this little island out in the ocean somewhere, presumably close to shore, so they can run a power cable, and you have all your rectennas, as they call it, to harness the power, and it's bunk.
Plus that they work with dangerous weapons.
Yes. So, but it comes up over and over. You have the space elevator, a tethered satellite that's far enough out there that the centripetal force keeps the cable taut. And if only we had the cable materials to do that, and could keep airplanes from running into it, and on and on. Certain lead-free mandates. Let me tell you, the advent of lead-free solder is no good thing. It's not based on science. It's based on politics. It's lead. Well, okay. Why is that a problem? But it's lead. Okay. Where do you find it? Well, in the faceplates of cathode ray tubes. Those are obsolete now for the most part, but if you had to take lead and sequester it so that it would be the most environmentally benign form possible, that faceplate glass full of lead is probably how you would do it. Anyway, don't get me started. I'm here to talk about other things. Broadband over power lines. Fortunately, defied the laws of physics, and despite all the business momentum and all the politicking in DC and all the forced decisions for the Federal Communications Commission, it can't fly. Garbage. It always was. But they didn't come and ask me. Okay, over-extrapolating DC power benefits is very extant these days, and uncalibrated fear of EM fields. I once had an activist tell me, you know, there are power lines over there, you know, they're 1 million volts. How are you supposed to compete against that? And the answer is, well, if you touch the power line, you probably don't. But for a person sitting on the ground, and, you know, I made a quick mental calculation of how many picofarads of capacitance and so forth. I said, well, you know, the voltage drop for a person standing underneath is probably on the order of 100 microvolts. I don't think that's a problem. Well, moving right along, somehow. Can you push it for me? Thank you. How do we deliver good technology? Now, I've had as many as a dozen employees, and I spent a lot of time where it's just me. Right now, it's just me. You know, I had a part-timer over the summer, and I've had a guy who worked for me for a while. I let him live in my warehouse, and he did things for rent. I have had customers, including General Motors and IBM, and you know, on and on. And I can do good things as one person. But I have critical dependence on certain things. And that is, I'm dealing with people who already know what they're doing.
I think so.
For the presentations here, they're talking about ways of delivering technology to people who don't know what they're doing, who don't have the organization, the infrastructure, the vision. And so they face a unique challenge, and it's fascinating to hear them talk. You know, I'm a student of people in organizations, and as I look at them describe the path from individual contributors to use on the ground, I come up against what I call the concept of intellectual radius. And that is, how many competencies does one person need to possess in order to take something from a sketch on a computer screen to somebody in a remote village somewhere who needs what they're thinking? And the answer is, with all my experience and education, I don't know how to do that, and I shouldn't have to. And a lot of the informal transfer I've heard of amounts to family members who perhaps come to the US for education and can go back and do some good for their family. But it doesn't scale. And so the distinctive competence that needs to be a theme of this conference is, how do we do that? There are themes you have heard from each of these speakers woven in. They keep talking about or alluding to the same things, okay, that we need to be able to take and formally address. Where are the institutions that provide the guidance? Next slide, please. Okay, now, here are some case histories drawn from my personal experience. I have a brother on a farm in Oregon. He's a little bit isolated. He's in a valley, so he doesn't get the benefit that you would really like for solar. But he's in an area where every spring, when the clouds break, finally, the 9/11 lines are jammed with people saying, "What's that big light in the sky?" Oh, really? Oh, I'd forgotten about that. Okay, so he's thinking of small-scale hydro. Now, personally, I don't think it's the way to go. But hey, he has an engineering background, and if he wants to do that just for the sheer joy of it, I'm not going to stand in his way. So there is a man who's developing technology that could be used in places with lots of rainfall. And other people have done it. And of course he'll get on the internet, he'll piggyback off their work. But he's doing it. I have a friend who lives out in the hill country somewhere, and he was complaining to me that he could get 1 bar on his cell phone. And so he would actually get a ladder and get up on top of his mobile home, and he could get 4 bars. And I said, well, what you need is a repeater antenna. What's that? And I described it, and I helped him build one. You know, I showed him some calculations. He came over and used some test equipment. And it's a passive system. He has a directional antenna up on top of the mobile home on a pole. With the aid of his wife, he aimed it towards the proper cell tower, ran a coax down to an antenna inside, and he can sit there in a chair and get 4 bars. Simple, right? But we hear about people out in remote villages. Do they need that kind of reach? The answer is, yeah, probably. And it's so easy to do. All right. There's a fellow down in, you overshot. A fellow down in Buena Park, California, who's brilliant. His background is physics, and he designs wind turbines. He designs the generators. He knows where to source the magnets. You know, he's repurposing starter casings for truck starters to build his generators. He's being very clever. And he is such a bad businessman. I admired what he was doing. He has wind turbine technology that scales differently than the big towers with the blades. He can work at low wind velocities. He can build small generators. It would be lovely to be able to take this out and apply it. And you absolutely cannot partner with the guy. I propose, well, you know, I can design this electronics. You'd be making money off of my stuff. You know, he's keeping it all like this. And you can't help the guy. You have to wait for the patents to expire. So you don't have to deal with them. So, final example, computer peripherals in India. I was at some conference somewhere and I was talking to an engineer for a little company called Hewlett-Packard. And she was telling me about some of the problems they had with printers in India. And the problem is they will have a big transformer they'll plunk on a pad somewhere, and at the terminals you might have 400 volts. And you go kilometers down the line, and at the far end, it might be under 100 volts, and bouncing up and down like crazy, you know. And they don't like product returns. You open it up and it's all fried or everything. So they have the nameplate ratings, and they're rational. But they have actually designed their printers, at least the ones they sell over there, so they will operate under those conditions. And they had to learn the hard way. Where are the organizations that I would turn to? Where are the websites where I could go and receive this kind of information instead of having to overhear it? The answer is there really isn't a place. As I think in terms of a business, I'm not worried about, you know, the corporate wheeling dealing up on Walnut Road. I'm talking about just the nuts and bolts of how do you competently deliver product. And there's a certain type of infrastructure that's been well honed over since the Industrial Revolution. And I don't see it here. You know, where's the humanitarian equivalent of market researchers? Where are the humanitarian equivalents of the product managers and the people who specify what ought to be? Where is the mechanism where I, as an individual, can take my expertise and say, transformer design or system-level power design and apply that? So that's kind of my thing. Let's go to my final slide. That's good. Heard in this room. Here's some of the themes that I've heard. Need for continuity, need for follow-up, need feedback from actual results, need scalable delivery systems. That is what businesses do. I'm not proposing that we get General Motors to run this for us. I'm saying we can emulate the things that they do, but it's not going to come bottom up. Somebody somewhere needs to raise their hand. I don't care if it's the World Bank. I don't care if it's what's the matter you. But I see a shortage of the high-level organization that makes the difference between the intelligence and cognition of a human being and that of a jellyfish. It just goes, and that is my message. Thank you very much.